Christian Wallace. I am a senior consultant and the environmental coordinator for Charcoal Blue. Charcoal Blue, we are theatre, acoustic and experience consultants. So we design, advise all types of performing arts venues and beyond as well. We've got quite a large scope what we do, but we are embedded within the theatre industry. Myself and four other members of Charcoal Blue did the training back in 2021, and it did kind of really sort of transform my life, my way of thinking, sort of as an individual, but also what we can do within Charcoal Blue and also the wider industry as well. Because back in 2021, Sale were kind of the only ones really doing it within the arts. Immediately after becoming accredited, I was like, right, this is something that Charcoal Blue need to do, and started putting together the bare bones of our own training program. That took about 6 months working with Sale to get all that approved, and then working with the Carbon Industry Project themselves. So it's a fully accredited course. So then now I've become a facilitator, and now I can obviously then start training everybody within Charcoal Blue and outside as well. It's given me a greater understanding behind it, and it's given me a way forward. The training is fantastic because it gives you a lot of knowledge in, quite frankly, not a lot of time. A day's worth of training does sound like it's a lot, but actually, given how big the subject is, but within that, you are at least given pointers to actually start improving yourself as an individual. So for me, I've definitely started changing the way I live my life individually, but also it's led me to become the environmental coordinator at Charcoal Blue. The journey we went on to become sort of a carbon literate organization, and to embed that within Charcoal Blue, and for myself to become the environmental coordinator. We're an international company, so we had to obviously make sure that it wasn't just a UK centric base level of training. We were able to actually do that for our Australian and American colleagues, but also beyond. The climate crisis is a global crisis. It's not just constrained to one country. It's a big subject. So there's a lot of things that we need to consider behind it, and how to actually form that into a day's worth of training. It can be broken down into 2-hour sessions, 4-hour sessions, whatever it needs to be. So that makes it then as not as an assault completely on your senses and information overload. Because when we start thinking about it, and probably this is the reason why a lot of people are tuning into this conference, because they have that going, where do we even start with this? And this is the great thing about the training. It gives you that starting point to actually have that understanding. As a theatre maker, or whoever you are within the theatre industry, there's some great support now, talking to other people that are doing the training, but also the Carbon Industry Project themselves. There is the fantastic world of the internet. There's a lot of things happening. There's a massive movement happening. The Theatre Green Book is a really good fallback to work from, but before jumping into that, it's having that understanding of what the climate crisis is. And so to be able to create these courses, I did a lot of research, spoke with a lot of people from across the planet, quite frankly, and I was really encouraged to hear and listen to what people are trying to do. We are in a fantastic situation now where we can actually talk to people. The Theatre Green Book has a lot of references on there. We've been on a journey at Charcoal Blue. So the first point, obviously, becoming a carbon literate organisation. So that means obviously we've been able to train a number of staff. So we're now at about 60% staff that have been trained, and still pushing for further. So for us, we're wanting to become a gold standard carbon literate organisation. So there are different levels of organisational accreditation that the Carbon Industry Project go through. So the first thing you should do is actually check out the Carbon Literacy Project website. Next thing is going onto the Theatre Green Book website. Check out that. If you just type in carbon literacy training on that, it'll come out with about the 5 or 6 different courses that are available within the theatre sector as well. You know, it isn't just for the technicians, it isn't just for the educators, it's for anybody. Just need to actually go out there and have that understanding. There's going to be resistance, you know, we see it every day. So it's taking it a step at a time. Get somebody within your organization to do the training first of all, and to have an understanding of the impact of it all. So the training takes roughly about a day, and it can be done in an entire day. It's a lot to take in an entire day, or it can be broken down into smaller sections. So the way that we do it at Charcoal Blue, we've broken it down into 3 parts. So part 1 is a website where it's down to the individual to go through a series of web articles, text, video links, etc., to give you that understanding overall. The second part, again, for what we do, is broken down into 2 2-hour sessions. It can be 1 4-hour session, and that's your really interactive session where you're going through the bigger chunks of what is happening. And that's starting off, you know, what is happening in terms of net zero, what is net zero, what's carbon neutral, all of those different buzzwords that we hear, delve into that a bit more. So as an individual, what can you do? We have a look at carbon footprints. What is a carbon footprint to start off with? Where does it come from? And also, what is your own carbon footprint? So we have a calculation of that. Then having a look at, as an individual, what can you do? Because again, we can't just look at what we can do as an organization, we need to look at what we do as an individual as well. So it's a big, broad subject we're looking at. Beyond that as well, we're having a look at climate justice and everything around that. The final part is making pledges. So to become carbon literate, to be able to get your certificate, you will do an individual and a group pledge as a result of the carbon literacy training. Putting those 2 things together with a short piece on what we need to do as a society to become carbon neutral. And so then that gets sent off, and you get a lovely e-certificate coming through the post from the Carbon Literacy Project, and that will then mean that you are fully certified as carbon literate. The Theatre Green book is broken down into 3 books. Obviously, the training is as well. And that, after the training, hopefully, it will give you the empowerment to take on those actions. Part of the training, there's a number of breakout sessions within there. So you're speaking with people that you work with, maybe people that you don't work with, depending on how the training is put together. And it's all about learning. So peer-to-peer learning is so vital for all of this, you know. So following the training, you're going to come out with your own individual and group action. And part of that group action can obviously then be applied through the Theatre Green book as well.
I've always been interested in the environment. I've always been interested in what I can do personally, but also what was fascinating was that the company was also interested in finding out what we could do together. And it was presented at a pace that was engaging and stimulating, yet educational. For me, someone like me who's not a very academic person, it was easy.
If you really care about the environment, it's not that hard to read a document that's trying to help you. It's not trying to enforce anything on you. And it acts as a guide, and then you can be quite creative with how you then use that in your workflow. But having done the carbon literacy training, it now shows how important it is and how clear it is. It's such a clear document and guide that it's not as scary as it would seem.
A great starting point would be to get your carbon literacy training, build the foundations of what you need to know to be able to then fully absorb everything that the Theatre Green Book has to offer.
Well, the great thing about the training is that, you know, it keeps on evolving itself. And there are things that are happening all the time within the world. Sadly, there's obviously the disasters that happen, but then also there's fantastic improvements that are happening as well, and some good news stories, and that's reflected in the training. We're going to be completely reflective of what's happening within the wider world, but also within the arts sector as well. And we can learn from what's happening in the arts sector as well, and vice versa within the Theatre Green Book as well. We want to be a sort of symbiotic relationship between those two things together, really. We are warming the planet rapidly by the way we live our lives. If we do not act, then we are on course to raise temperatures well above 3 degrees. Climate change and global warming are already impacting the arts, from floods causing damage to workshops and basements to heat waves stopping performances. We must address the crisis and find ways to lower our impact. Carbon literacy training is aimed at 3 distinct audiences: those that live, those that work, and those that study. This allows them to capture all audiences in their aim to offer every citizen carbon literacy training. The Carbon Literacy Project aims to make us feel more empowered in taking climate action through sharing knowledge and experiences together. It's peer-to-peer learning, so you're hearing from people you know and can engage with. None of us are experts. There's always more to learn.